In this problem, we're going to simplify an expression using multiplication. So we have 5x parentheses 2x minus 5. And this is a multiplication problem. This really means 5 times x times all this stuff in the parentheses. And we want to use the distributive property. So of multiplication. I'm going to write that up here. Distributive property. The distributive property really helps us manipulate equations or use the operations to simplify them. So 5x, and then we have this stuff in here. It looks like we can't do anything, but we can. We distribute this term, the 5x. We're distributing it with multiplication and then over subtraction. Just all that means is we're doing 5x times 2x, and then we're going to subtract 5x times 5. So 5x times 2x, what is that? Well, that's 10x squared, and I'll go over that in 1 minute. And then we're subtracting 5x times 5, which is 25x. So the answer here is C. Oh, not C. C says 10 times x minus 25x. We have 10x squared minus 25x, so the answer is D. Now, where does this come from? What's the idea behind this? Well, 5x times 2x. A procedure to solve this would be to multiply the coefficients. So it's 5 times 2, and then x times x. So it's times x, and that's 10 times x squared, or 10x squared. X times x is just x squared. Think of the definition of x to the second power. This means x times x. So x times x will always give you or bring you back to x squared. And then we have over here, we have 5x times 5 as the next. So in this case, we're just doing the two coefficients times each other, which is 25, and the x is still there, so it's 25x. Why does all this make sense? Well, 5 times x and then times 2 times x. If you think of, let's say x was 2. So we can think of this as 5 times 2 times 2 times 2. And one way we could deal with this, and the reason we know it works, is to use the commutative property. Right? We can think about commutative property of multiplication. We can multiply this 5 times this 2, just like we did here. These two coefficients, 5 and 2. And then the 2 and the 2. Those are our x's. And that works because of the commutative property. It won't change the value. Same thing here. We have 5 times x times 5. We can do the 5 times the 5 and then just have times the x next. So it's 25 times x. So the commutative property tells me I can do this without changing the answer. And the reason we chose to do that, like for the 5x times 2x, why even bother doing x times x, is because it kind of develops the problem a little bit further. We could have continued and left it as 5 times 2, which is 10, 5 times 2 times x, and written it as, I'm running out of room, 10 times x, but it looks neater to develop this problem and simplify it, they would say, by doing x times x and getting x squared. You're trying to condense these, this is a binomial, condense these polynomials into an expression that looks the neatest.